I work in international media. I'm the New York City correspondent for RT from Russia. I report
Which stands for
Russia Today. And I covered news for them, and I'm also the founder of the Center for Political Innovation. We educate people about opposing war and opposing empire, and trying to bring a new perspective to anti-imperialism and socialism, looking beyond left and right, but toward what brings us together, how we can build community.
And fantastic. How long have you been working with CPI?
CPI has been around for about 3 years. Before that, we had clubs on various campuses that were called Students and Youth for a New America. Then around the time of the pandemic, as the pandemic was coming to a close, we decided to launch the Center for Political Innovation as a formal educational think tank organization.
So you've gone through a transformation already.
Yeah, and we will probably take on many different stages, and we've been involved in many different projects, and our organizational form will evolve over time. One thing we really tried to do is we want to get past this notion that you have to form a party, because in the United States of America, there are two political parties, the Democrats and the Republicans. So if you go to average people and you say forming a party, they're already confused when you say you're not a Democrat or a Republican. And then when they find out you're a party, they want to know when you're on the ballot. And if you're not running candidates and you're a party, they're even more confused, right? And that this orthodoxy of we must form the party and publish the newspaper and have a leader with a certain mustache. This is kind of a stodgy old archaic way of doing things. And as we talk about socialism for the 21st century, we want to be more modern in our approach, and we aim to educate. We're not running candidates for office. We do some protesting, some mass outreach, but our main thing is to educate. We see ourselves as an educational organization. And I tell people that as things get better in this country and as we start moving towards socialism, there will probably be something like a party that comes into existence. But that party will be like an orchestra. In an orchestra, you got trombones, you got bass drums, you got harps, you got flutes, and we will be one instrument in that orchestra. Because a real revolutionary party, not only would it have people that do educational work like CPI, it'll also have labor unions, it'll have people who run for office, it'll have a newspaper, it'll have all kinds of different things. Well, we will be one part of the coalition that's eventually needed, because I really believe in this kind of educational work about anti-imperialism and getting to average people who would never go looking for this message with it. And so we want to take on that task, and we can't just wait for some organization to come along that'll allow it to do us with them. We got to just seize the moment. We got to do it, right? And I feel like that's a big problem I see in a lot of circles. There's a lot of people, it's like, oh, if we could just, we could get into the Democratic Party, we could just take it over, or we can, there's a community radio station, we can just get our people on the board. It's like, no, just do it. Just do it. Right? There's so much that needs to be done right now. Just do it. And that's been the CPI approach, is if we want to do something, we find out what we're capable of doing, we raise the money, we find the volunteers, and we do it, right? Because people need to know the truth about what's going on. Our country is in a very severe crisis. The world is in a very severe crisis. So it's time to do something, not just to wait for all the chess pieces to align and we take over some institution. Just do it. That's my attitude.
Absolutely, I agree. And that, I would consider that a basic overview, folks. So I want to get into more detail on the importance of CPI at this juncture in our history, because it plays a very vital role, I think, in going forward with what is happening in the world right now and how to solve the problems. I tell people about Henry Wallace, how he was a socialist and he was a pacifist. So that's why the powers that be didn't want him to be the president, because they had plans for those bombs. You know what I mean? And so people need to understand, this is why it's important to understand the history, you know what I mean? So that you can at least, have a different perspective than what you were taught or weren't taught in school, which is, again, getting back to CPI, that's a vital role to provide materials for people to be able to read on their own, and also to do podcasts and interviews and talk about, like what we're doing now, talk about actual things from history, so that those that are interested at some point, I think we'll see more and more people who are interested because they're not satisfied with their life. And, in order to understand how we got to where we are now, you do have to understand some history, yes. Right? So I think providing that information, so here's some tools, here's some information for you, and CPI is doing a great job. Well, what are some examples of some of the books that you've published or had republished?
Well, the first book we ever published was The Green Book by Muammar Gaddafi, because, Libya, under the leadership of Gaddafi, had the highest life expectancy in Africa. They had built the world's largest irrigation system, the Great Man-Made River. And so we wanted to show people what it was that, that Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama destroyed with their bombing campaign in 2011, and how it was that the most prosperous country in Africa was reduced to rubble, and what NATO, this criminal organization, what it had done in Libya. So we published the Green Book, which is the manifesto of the Libyan government. We have also published a number of books, about socialism in the United States, socialist history, about economics, trying to give a new perspective, because we do feel like, a lot of the left are very, very loyal to the Democratic Party, and they view the masses of the American people as their enemy, and that's a huge mistake. And so we have to rethink left and right in our time. I'm a religious person. I believe in God. I'm a Christian, and I think that Christian faith and socialism walk hand in hand. Obviously there was horrendous persecution of Christians during the Cold War time, but the communist world has largely changed its perspective. The head of the Russian Communist Party, who I've met, Gennady Zyuganov, he's a Christian. He's a Russian Orthodox Christian. Nicolas Maduro, the leader of Venezuela, is a Roman Catholic. Daniel Ortega of Nicaragua, not only is he a Roman Catholic, but the slogan of the government is Christianity, socialism, and solidarity. And that we need to rethink left and right and how we orient ourselves, because unfortunately, I think a lot of the most ugly capitalist politics, this degrowth notion that human beings are a cancer, the radical individualism where everyone feels a need to yell at everybody else and tear them down the way people do on social media. Unfortunately, a lot of the left has embraced that. And a lot of Americans are rightly threatened by that. They don't appreciate that. And I think that, is those sentiments of resisting the low-wage police state and the degrowth and the march toward World War III and the kind of elements of control that are being imposed on our population right now. That is where the socialists and the anti-imperialists need to be. And we don't need to be with the left. It's almost kind of trying to enforce it and sees the enemy as the population. And that's, CPI is kind of new in our orientation. We tell people we're not left, we're not right, we're anti-war, we're socialists, and we're
patriots.
And we're patriots too. We love our country, right? And if you don't love your country, why should the country listen to you? If you're not motivated by trying to make things better in your country, what do you have to say? It's just kind of common sense. If you're in Brazil, you're a political leader in Brazil, you should be trying to make Brazil better. If you're in Greece and you're trying to make Greece, you're a political leader, you should be trying to make Greece better. It's just common sense. But unfortunately, a lot of the left has gotten into this kind of weird identity politics place where it's not about actually trying to make things better. It's about demonstrating how good you are. It's a virtue signaling. And I think that's a problem. And so in order to do the work that needs to be done, we've had to, separate ourselves from the mainstream of the left. And I think, but, we'll talk to anybody. The fact that I'm here in LA for this event, right? The idea of me doing something with this particular church, 5-10 years ago, I would have thought was outrageous. Right. And they probably would have thought the same thing. Exactly. But the world is changing, and we should embrace that change, because Absolutely. The world is constantly changing and evolving, and I'm constantly learning. I don't think exactly what I thought 10 years ago. I don't think you do either, right? And it's important to be able to learn and reconsider. The slogan in CPI that we've used, we say that we need a government of action that will fight for working families, right? Because we've been told, well, the government is best, the government's least. The government should just sit back. And I tell people, if you're a parent and you're just sitting back and your child isn't being fed properly, or your child's not getting, proper clothing to keep warm in the winter or whatnot, that's called neglect. And I would say that our government is guilty of criminal neglect. Too much of this country has been forgotten about, has been left behind. And so what we need is a government of action. That'll pave the roads, that'll hire the unemployed, that'll start rebuilding the country. We have a 4-point economic plan to improve the United States. Step 1 is a mass program of construction. Hire the unemployed, put them to work doing useful work, building, constructing, etc. Step 2 is public control of our natural resources. America's oil, America's coal, America's timber, America's natural gas. The wealth from that should go into the public budget.
What about electricity?
Well, I mean, the electricity that comes from our rivers or from our put energy and put natural resources into public ownership. And then the third stage would be public control of our banking system, so that, and I tell people, maybe Marx is a little too radical for you, read the Bible, read the Quran, read the Torah, right? They all forbid the lending of money at interest, because everybody knows that if you have a group of people who make money by having money, they just lend money and get money back, pretty soon they're going to be way richer than everybody else, and pretty soon the government's going to be indebted to them, and pretty soon they're going to have all the power. And the Federal Reserve System is just a ripoff. I mean, we get poorer. Every time we print a dollar, we get like $2 in debt. This doesn't make any sense. So get rid of the Federal Reserve, create a national bank, create a state bank, create some local banks that lend credit strategically for how we can make our country more prosperous, right? If we think we need more businesses in a certain area, lend money to make it happen. We need more people owning homes, we lend money to make it happen. But lending credit strategically, putting control of the purse strings of credit into the hands of the country overall, right? That'll enable us to control our economy. And then our fourth step would be the enactment of an economic Bill of Rights, which is what our President Roosevelt called for in his final State of the Union address: the right to a job, the right to housing, the right to education. And I tell people we shouldn't view these things as a handout, right? We've been told that if, giving people health care, giving people a job, that's just like giving them a handout. No, we should view it as an investment in the nation, right? Because if we're going to have a strong economy, we need everyone to be contributing to it. We need everyone to be employed and working and contributing. If we're going to have a strong country, we're going to need a healthy country where the people are at their best health so they can be as productive as possible. If we're going to have a strong country, we need an educated country. We don't want our people to be stupid. We need engineers. We need scientists. We need smart people who can make an informed decision when they go to vote.
Hello, this is Dan with Ismael and CPI in the house here in Los Angeles. How's it going?
Going great. We're here at the
KPFK
forum on the station, and we had some great speakers. Dan gave a great speech. He showed the Unity and Growth booklet, brought that out into the forum, and it was a great. We're going to be organizing more from now on, hopefully more.
Yeah, and this is our first official meeting, right, as a local group here in Los Angeles, and it is going to be starting very soon. I mean, we're a small group. I haven't met everybody yet. I have connected with a few people that are definitely on board, and this, you could say, is technically our first meetup, right?
Yes, the first meeting of many.
And creating coalitions and solidarity is part of what we do, right? And I also came to support the Rebel Alliance news program that I do contribute to. I've interviewed Caleb at least once and featured him at least once in a news segment on the program. And with strange circumstances going on, it was without any questions, just taken off the air. And so many of us were here at the forum to actually speak in support of keeping that radio program on the air, and there was a lot of support for us. It was pretty crazy to hear somebody say we're a right-wing news program. I mean, I just had to laugh out loud because a lot of the I would say 90% of the news that we were putting out there would look like it's more from the old left, or the modern, what we would call innovationism. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I don't agree with everybody 100%. And I don't know anybody in their right mind who does.
Yes.
I mean, because we should question everything, right? And make up our own minds and evolve our thinking about a certain issue, whatever that might be. And as we learn more, we might actually radically change the way we look at something, right? I mean, and I think that, especially in the last 4 years, I mean, many of us have been put in that situation, right?
Yes.
Where we had to kind of radically change the way we looked at things, certain things. And it's an ongoing process. It's not going to stop. As a matter of fact, there's probably going to be even more, right? Going into the Trump administration, you know what I mean?
4 years or something.
And we're all ready. I mean, it didn't matter to me who was going to be president. We're on board. We're ready to challenge whatever needs to be challenged going forward, for innovationism, for anti-imperialism, pro-economic growth. And I'll send you now a little clip of my speech here at the event. And Ismael, is there anything you want to say to the CPI community?
Remember that only peace can make America great again.
That is, I couldn't say it better.
Hello, my name is Dan, nice wonder. If you've heard me on the Rebel Alliance News as Dan Nowman. Sometimes, you know, we have to hear things we don't agree with. That's what free speech is about. Not everything we agree with, right? And I also want to talk about the Center for Political Innovation. I've interviewed Caleb Maupin in one of the segments, if you heard the radio show a while back. He wrote a book about Kamala Harris, which I think Tulsi Gabbard read, or because some of the content she shared at the debate, if you remember. But anyway, we're opening a local chapter here in the LA area for Center for Political Innovation. They took a lot of books to the Libertarian Convention, to the Democratic Party Convention, this one in particular, Do You Believe in Growth? Why Russia and China Keep Rising While the US Society Stifles Innovation. And we are anti-imperialism. We are pro-peace, pro-growth, not degrowth like the system is that we live in, and we need to change that. China is not our enemy. Russia is not our enemy. Iran is not our enemy. Venezuela is not our enemy. We need to move forward beyond left and right where it matters and find a new way forward. All of us, we need to work in unity, whether it's on the local level, national, or connect internationally. We need to be open to change and growth and learn together and be together and solidarity together and stop arguing. When I interviewed Robert Scheer, if you know who that is, he told me that all the way back when he was in Berkeley as a 20-something-year-old, and you know he ain't a young man now, he said Pacifica was always fighting each other. Why? We should be working together. And let's keep doing that. Support Rebel Alliance News. Bring it back on the air. Sometimes you need an 8-minute story to tell the whole facts and need to be shared. You can't tell the story in 2 minutes. You know? And let's hear more from all the communities. I work with autistic kids. Let's hear from some of those folks. Right? So, everybody, thank you very much. Thank you for the time. If you're interested in getting involved in the Center for Political Innovation, reach out to me. The group is starting now.
This video is not about blind support for Donald Trump.
It is now official. CNN projects that Donald Trump has been elected president.
Donald Trump has won the state of Wisconsin, which means he is the winner of this race and will return to the White House.
A sweeping and stunning victory, unlike any in our history.
Donald Trump has won the presidency for a second time.
Donald Trump, a convicted felon who survived 2 assassination attempts, making a remarkable comeback to become the next president of the United States.
He's so evil! Nazi! Break out the vote!
It was a terrible night.
Look what happened. Is this crazy?
Dear President Donald Trump, we've all spent the last year being told Donald Trump can never win again.
But as we went and spoke with regular voters,
that's never been what they seem to think.
As we predicted, you won.
Because the system that dominates the world, the system these people live in, is in complete crisis.
Imperialism, the old order of the world ruled by big banks and monopolies, is becoming more unstable by the day.
It is relentlessly driving working families' living standards down
and pushing us towards new wars.
Americans voted for you because you promised peace.
You promised peace.
You promised peace.
They said, he will start a war. I'm not going to start a war. I'm going to stop wars.
Americans voted for you because you promised swift government action to improve their lives.
Together we can truly make America great again for all Americans. African American, Hispanic American, Asian American, Arab American, Muslim American. Success is going to bring us together.
Americans voted for you because you promised to protect our freedoms.
We want to have security. We want to have things be good, safe. I will not rest until we have delivered the strong, safe, and prosperous America that our children deserve and that you deserve.
Americans voted for you because you promised to stand up to the rich and powerful.
You promised to stand up to the rich and powerful.
To the rich and the greedy.
You promised to stand up to the rich and powerful.
And put the people's needs first.
And put our needs first.
I want you to imagine how much better our future can be if we declare independence from the elites who led us from one financial and foreign policy disaster to another.
While many exclusively focus on the negative realities of a political campaign, we remember your Quantum Leap speech, where you rolled out some extraordinary ideas for completely rebuilding this country.
Past generations of Americans pursued big dreams and daring projects that once seemed absolutely impossible. They transformed American life with the interstate highway system, magnificent it was, and they launched a vast network of satellites into orbit all around the earth. But today, our country has lost its boldness. Under my leadership, we will get it back in a very big way. Our objective will be a quantum leap in the American standard of living.
We're writing this letter to let you know who we are.
We are the Center for Political Innovation.
The Center for Political Innovation.
The Center for Political Innovation.
We are the Center for Political
The Center for
Innovation.
Political Innovation.
We are the Center for Political
The
Innovation.
Center for Political
The
Innovation.
Center for Political Innovation.
We are the Center for Political Innovation.
We're innovationist
and anti-imperialist.
We are patriotic Americans
who want to see the power of Wall Street and London defeated.
And a whole new America rebuilt on new foundations.
We exposed Kamala Harris and how dangerous she was back in 2020 with a book called Kamala Harris and the Future of America.
The book was on sale for 4 years without incident.
Then the very day she became the nominee, on July 22nd, Amazon banned our book without explanation.
They did not want people to hear the truth about her awful record. They did not want people to see how she was tied to the regime change apparatus and how she had been carefully groomed by the malevolent forces that ran the Hillary Clinton State Department.
Amazon banned our book for 7 days. Banning our book backfired. Many thousands of copies sold from July to November as people hungered for the truth about the woman we called the most dangerous presidential candidate in history.
We are proud to have spread truth about Kamala Harris and who she really is.
In the final month before the election, we were on the streets of New York City with a huge banner that said, "Only peace can make America great again."
We highlighted what we consider to be your greatest moment in your first term as president when you offered a hand of friendship to North Korea.
Our organization gives voice to what the overwhelming majority of Americans want.
Jobs, schools, economic development, and, most of all, an end to all the wars.
While many of your biggest supporters are tied to Israel, as a matter of basic human morality, you must stop the slaughter in Gaza.
As the president, you will have the power to cut off the money. The $18 million of our tax money that goes into Israel every day is $18 million too much.
You have the power to stand up to Netanyahu and the Israel lobby.
And the overwhelming majority of your supporters will back you in doing so.
You can end the war in Ukraine as well, as you have promised to do.
Russia is ready to sit down with you and make a deal.
You can lift the sanctions that are devaluing the US dollar.
You can cut off the billions of dollars in tax money that has been dumped into death and destruction.
There's an explosion of economic growth happening in Eurasia right now.
China's Belt and Road Initiative, Russia's Eurasian Economic Union, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and BRICS
are all full of new wealth being generated as people rise out of poverty with electrification, railway, and new living conditions.
America can get in on the action, and you can create a legacy of growth and prosperity by pushing to make it happen.
That money and technological progress doesn't need to be for everyone but us.
A share can come to our communities across the heartland and south that have been devastated by the globalist monopolies.
America can join the new world of growth and optimism and leave behind the dying world of globalist bankers.
A big step toward making that happen would be fulfilling the vision first put forward by one of Abraham Lincoln's advisors.
Build the Peace Bridge, connecting Alaska to the Russian Far East. Building that bridge over the Bering Strait would create millions of jobs and connect the United States to the wave of economic expansion happening in that region.
You also have the power to step in and protect Americans from the deep state.
You can make Facebook, YouTube, and other social media outlets stop censoring Americans who speak up.
You can free Ross Ulbricht. You can free Leonard Peltier.
We have paid particular attention to the Uhuru Three: Penny Hess, Jesse Neville, and Omali Yeshitela.
Tucker Carlson highlighted their case in his program.
As part of the liberal Russia hysteria, they got charged with being foreign agents for their work building economic development among black people in Florida and Missouri.
You can pardon them for the absurd conspiracy conviction they received after being acquitted of the primary charge of being Russian agents.
You can repeal the absurd Foreign Agents Registration Act, a vaguely worded law
used to prosecute those who want to change U.S. foreign policy or do business overseas.
We know you can't do this alone. If you do, as you have promised, and clash with the deep state and the big monopolies,
you'll soon realize that there is one ally you desperately need: the American people.
The bulk of the population, those who voted for you because they just can't take it anymore, need to be pushed into action.
The American people are like a sleeping lion that can awaken and roar louder than ever when the time is right.
The country needs a mass movement. It's happened before, and it will happen again.
We defeated the British Empire. We smashed the slaveocracy of plantation owners. We built the labor unions and won women the right to vote. We ended the Vietnam War, and we destroyed legal segregation.
The changes that the overwhelming majority of the American people want will not come about as a result of some savior in the White House.
No matter how adept of a political leader you might be.
The masses of people in their millions are the makers of history.
And it will take an upsurge of democratic participation to bring about what this country really needs.
A government of action.
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 To fight for working families.
You are in a very important position as arguably the most powerful person in the world right now.
President of the United States.
We urge you to stop the emerging low-wage police state. We urge you to stop the march towards World War III.
We urge you to help energize and mobilize a population to assert their will over the greed of the rich and powerful.
We're building a movement of anti-imperialists here in America.
People who love their neighborhoods, cities, and communities and see that protecting them is more urgent now than ever.
We consistently look to the future optimistically and see many promising possibilities in your re-election.
However, as with all politicians, especially presidents, we cannot and will not offer blind support.
Our goals are peace and prosperity for all, and we won't hesitate to criticize you if you stand in the way.
Millions and millions of working families are counting on you, Donald.
Not just here in the U.S., but around the world.
Find the strength within yourself and your relationship with God to be the hero the world desperately needs.
It may not be your first instinct, and it may even fly in the face of much of what you've said, believed, and even promised.
But it is a surefire way to find your name imprinted in the history books for centuries.
We train our members to understand the world and how it works. More importantly, how to change things.
You will hear a lot from us in the next 4 years.
And if and when you stand up to the forces of darkness and empire, we will always have your back. See you at the inauguration.